me set my chat to all messages. Thanks for joining me today. This won't be a very long live stream, but I do want to talk about, because the question came up actually on a TikTok video I did a while ago, and someone, I guess, saw the TikTok and started asking questions, and the questions all related to prepping in a limited space environment, like a condo, an apartment, maybe you're renting a guest room somewhere. When you're dealing with that, your biggest problem will be space, right? I talk a lot about prioritizing, you didn't need that signal, prioritizing things like your time, your money, your energy, your space. Hey, KP, your space would be one of the 4 factors that you need to consider. Hey, Neil. And when you're doing that, so the first things you want to do, you got to keep the basics, right? We all know that: the food, the water, the first aid, etc. Grew up in an apartment as a kid, so I know the pain points, because I spent pretty much my childhood through college living in an apartment of one type or another. One of the first things, hey LMT, say, what areas can I use for preparedness without, what's up, Neil? Without making myself crazy, and without completely making the apartment look like a hoarder house, right? Because prepping can become hoarding very quickly if you're not organized. And then even worse, then product gets wasted, it expires, and then you have a waste of money, and then you're not saving money or resources or time or space. You're not saving any of them. So the first thing you do is assess your space. Now, let's say you are renting an apartment, right? And again, limited space. So say you have a 2-bedroom apartment, and you have a little pantry and a living room, and that's about it. Well, there are things you can do. For example, one, see where you can go vertically. If your apartment will allow you to install shelving, you could get a put together wall unit from IKEA, from Amazon. You can find them at places like Home Goods, and put shelving to go vertically in the apartment, right? All of a sudden, now you've gone from square footage on the floor to a 3-dimensional space. A lot of people don't think like that. They're like, oh, I'm just gonna prep in my apartment, and they're gonna stack stuff in that one closet. And then you open it and it's like Porky Pig's Porky Pig will really help you stay organized. 2, if you're in limited space, don't buy things you don't use all the time. Now, normally I would tell you have a diversity of stuff, right? Have canned goods, have frozen goods, have freeze-dried buckets if you can afford them and find them at a good price. In this case, you may want an emergency bucket or 2, but then stop. I would focus on stuff that you use all the time. Since you don't have the space for the long-term stuff, you want to focus on things that you're using every day anyway, like the can of green beans you make 3 times a week, or whatever, the pasta, and focus on that. Don't make yourself crazy trying to fit too much in a limited space, and focus on priorities, stuff you already use, or stuff that is portable in the event you have to get out. And I'm going to go to the bug out scene in a minute. Another thing to consider under your bed, depending on the type of bed you have, something I did in college is I used risers. First I had cinder blocks, which was ugly as shit, but then I got these little risers. I put my bed, you know, a classic metal frame, on the risers, and I lifted my bed another 6 inches, 8 inches off the floor. Then I could use Tupperware or various plastic bins that you get cheap from Walmart and put it under the bed. So again, in this case, the bed went vertical and I used the space underneath. Another option you have in limited space is to make your furniture multifunctional. So instead of getting a bougie TV set, or a bougie TV stand that has a bunch of open shelves, get one that has closed doors. You could put your TV, your PlayStation, your DVD player, whatever the hell you want, your soundbar, on top of that unit. But then inside the hidden compartment where the door is, you can add additional preps, first aid kits, fire extinguishers, whatever. Certain things like a fire extinguisher you may not want to have in the closet. You might want to have that in the kitchen. Most apartments will not object to you mounting a fire extinguisher in your kitchen. Mount two, one in the master bedroom, one in the kitchen. Why the master bedroom? I had someone say, oh, it's because it gets hot in the bedroom. Haha, funny. No, because if there's a freaking fire at 2 a.m., I'm not going to be in the kitchen typically. My ass will be in bed. And now I have to run out of my apartment or find my dog or my kid with fire on the floor. Having a fire extinguisher allows you to create a path to get to your pet or your loved one to get them the hell out of the apartment. And remember, if you're in an apartment, it may not be your apartment. It may be some idiot next door who sets the fire. Chance brings up a good point. Make sure your containers can handle weight. If you get something too flimsy and you start stacking, you could collapse stuff on the bottom and lose product or cause damage. At the very least, you're just going to have a hot mess. So you got to be mindful of not only using vertical space, but making sure that however you're stacking vertically is not causing an overweight situation with something below that's going to crush the stuff below you. So those are the starters. Again, this is specifically about space. Maximize that space. Not everyone can suddenly say, hey, you know what? I want to get the 2-bedroom apartment or the 3-bedroom apartment. Your costs are going to go up a lot on the housing, and that's going to be a challenge. You'd be better off maximizing the space you have and saving the money than wasting the money just to have more space, but now your rent's higher and you can't buy the preparedness stuff you'd like to buy. So be mindful of stuff like that. Watchman puts a comment in there saying, I put rice in a bucket and got maggots. All of the rice that I've put in any kind of plastic container is in a Mylar bag that's sealed, and it prevents insects and animals from smelling it. Unfortunately, there's no guarantee on that. Then I put them inside a plastic container. I actually don't use buckets for that. I use square bins because the Mylar bags I use are one gallon or 2 gallon square bags. So I stack them almost like files in a filing cabinet across the bin, and I label each one. That's another thing to be able to utilize the space and not have bugs or critters come in. Moving to another topic, when it comes to food, and thanks, Watchman, for bringing that up, because that was my next topic. Cooking in advance and then using freezer molds and food savoring pre-cooked meals not only saves you time during a work week, but it will also save you space, right? You make chili, you put it in the fridge, and it's in a big old Tupperware. It doesn't stack well. But even if you just don't have a standalone freezer, it's just your fridge/freezer, you get a lot more things in there if they're all frozen in little squares and rectangles. Think of Tetris, right? If you have a bunch of odd-shaped boxes from chicken nuggets or whatever the hell product, and you just stuff them in the freezer, you're gonna see a lot of empty space. And I've done other videos where I made basically 10 servings of, say, chili, or 10 servings of spinach gnocchi soup, all at one time in a slow cooker and Instant Pot. Then I put them in silicone molds and I freeze them in squares. Then I food savor the individual squares. And what that does, it allows me to optimize the space in my freezer. I save money and I save time. So be mindful of those kind of things. Also, if you go vertical, remember, you can use the vertical space for other things, right? You can put a radio up there. You can have your cordless batteries for your cordless drill charging on one of those shelves. So be creative. There are ways you can prep in a limited space and not make your house look like a bunker. You can use furniture. You can even use decor. For example, those little things you see at places like Hobby Lobby and Walmart. It's like a candle holder. It's a sconce that goes on the wall, but it's candle holder. Well, you could actually put a candle there in the event there's a blackout. You know there's going to be a candle on that thing mounted on the wall. You can go over and light it and have at least some wall, some light in the room. Keep in mind, don't put candles too close to sheetrock, obviously. Ponder safety, of course. If you have a little dining table, you put a candle holder or candlestick holder on the table and put an actual candle there. You get a blackout, guess what? You go to your kitchen, get your matches, light the candle, and at least you have some illumination in your kitchen in the event of a blackout. It looks tasteful. If you have friends over, it doesn't look like you're crazy, and at the same time, it gives you essentially a light preparedness item. But it looks cool, it looks nice. So be mindful of that kind of stuff as well. The last thing, and the Angry Prepper's done a lot of videos on this kind of stuff, is to make sure that you consider if you have to bug out. If there is a fire in the apartments, you're going to have to leave. If there is, for instance, Manhattan, right? If some catastrophe and supplies cannot get to the island of Manhattan, you're going to be screwed. You're going to have to leave. You need to ponder that elevators may be shut down. Lights in the stairwells may be off. So you're going to have to factor this in if you have to bug out. Or even if you stay in your apartment, but you have to get upstairs and downstairs. Again, if you're not in good shape or you don't exercise regularly, going up and down 5-10 flights of stairs might be a serious challenge for you. It might actually cause you a problem. So you need to understand what floor are you on, how hard is it to get groceries up and down. And keep in mind, if you decide, oh, the water's out and you want to bring a 5-gallon jug to your apartment, the elevators may be out. You might have to bring that damn thing on your shoulder up several flights of stairs. Is there an alternative to that? Is there a freight elevator? Is there some other way to get into the apartment that doesn't require you hauling 45 pounds of water on your shoulder? So things like that you need to start thinking of. And you also have to keep in mind egress. If you have to leave, how are you going to leave? If your car's in a parking garage for the apartment, which a lot of the newer apartments have like a garage in the basement, if the power's out, they may not be able to open the gate. You might have to leave on a bicycle. You might have to leave on foot. So you're going to have to consider storage for your backpack, stuff like that. You can do it with eye toward decor without, hey, old glory. You can put your stuff in storage on the wall, on a shelf, and make it look decent. I know I've seen one guy, he's a very dedicated mountain hiker. And what he likes to do is he has one wall in his master bedroom, and he has a bunch of hooks and shelves there, and all his outdoor gear is just hung up on the wall. It's actually also his bug out gear, but it's decor. People come in to visit, they happen to go into the bedroom, they're like, oh, this is great. This looks really cool. Look at all that gear you have on display. So it's almost a display, but it's his gear visible as well and accessible to him. So anyway, folks, this is going to be one of those shorter vids. When you have limited space, and keep in mind, if you have a small house versus a small apartment, it's a very different dynamic. Even if your yard, like you live in a duplex house and your yard is not suitable for gardening, you still have a yard. You can put your bicycle there. You can put equipment on the patio in the back. The apartments may not give you that option. And we really need to consider what your space is, how much space you have, and what kind of scenarios you're prepping for. And this is why I'm also hold on a second here. I trust the instincts. Hold on, I'm getting messages there, but is standing up against Trump. What were we talking about? Uh, you got to blind not know how connected. Hold on a second, folks. What the hell is going on in the chat here? That's new. Hold on a second here, folks. I'm trying to backtrack what's happening. Thank you, KP, by the way. I can't see the message, but thank you for... all right, I'm not sure what... so I don't have to get ready. Okay. Okay, I guess we wound up on the... Okay, KP. Yeah, I'll holler at you in a minute. Rex 84. Yeah, I tried to go up, but the YouTube's stupid. For some reason, in the vertical setup, like when I'm in the car, I can't go all the way to the back end of the chat. I don't know why. Yeah, KP, I'll reach out to you, man. But yeah, folks, look. So going back on topic, limited space. Go vertical. Make sure you can stack your stuff. Get creative. Use decor as preparedness if you need to. Also, pre-cooked food saves you time, saves you money, also saves you space. And if you're living in a house versus an apartment, remember the house, even if you can't garden, it's a rental, you still have a yard. You can put emergency items there, cover it with a tarp so it doesn't get out of hand, in the house as well. So anyway, folks, quick live stream. Just want you folks thinking about it. If you have any other thoughts on tips for limited space for other folks to consider, feel free to put them in the comments below the video. And otherwise, folks, I will holler at you later. You guys be good and be safe out there. And again, remember, time, energy, money, and space are very important resources for everyone. Make sure you maximize them. You folks take care of yourselves. Take care.